It's Friday, everybody. It's Kate Richberg, and welcome to Free Tip Friday. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are around our great big beady world here. It is Friday, September 16th, and today, if you took a look at your newsletter, you saw my skinny shimmer bracelets that are going to be released very soon. Right now on the West Coast, it is 10:33 a.m. if you're watching this live. They will go live in 2 hours at 12:30. So once this broadcast is done, you can hop over to beadshop.com and at 12:30, you're going to want to refresh that um, the page, and you'll see the skinny shimmer wraps, and you can pick one, pick them both, but they'll be available then. So this show is the preview for that kit. So I want to show you both of them, both of the colorways, talk a little bit about what I was thinking when I did these. A big hello over to Gita, who is over on Facebook doing some moderating over there. Happy weekend to you, Gita, across the miles. I guess it's evening over there in Denmark. And Janice you're not late, Janice, you're right on time, right over on YouTube, saying hello over there. It's great to see everybody. Look at that. So many people are watching. So thank you. I'm just scrolling through the all the comments. Great to have all of you guys here. So um I made these. I had picked up these crystals, and when you get the kit, you guys, you might be a little mad because these beads are small. I was kind of mad at myself when I was making it. I was like, what was I thinking? But it is the process, right? So enjoy the process of making it. And I'm going to show you kind of my little tricks so it's not so hard to string these tiny, tiny beads. But the result is totally, totally worth it. So let's take a look here. And thank you so much, you guys, for the kind birthday wishes. It is the start of my birthday weekend. I turn 56 tomorrow. So bring it, 56. Let's do it. So anyway, that's all I'm saying about that. So let me take a bracing drink of coffee and let's get to this kit. Alrighty. So let me move over there. Okay. Um, let's see here. We've got two kits that and they're super affordable, right? They're just kind of small little fun things. You can buy one for you and all of your girlfriends if you're getting together to do something, or if you want a couple or whatever. They're super affordable. And so when I went bead shopping, it was earlier this summer, actually, I stumbled across these crystals that I knew I had to have. So this green kit, this is the copper, and this is the aqua that's over here. Okay. And I stumbled across um, these crystals. Let me see if I can make the glare on these go away. There we go. I stumbled across them, and I'm like, I have to have them. And in turn, I thought you guys had to have them. So I have been. I always like, I don't know. I'll take make anything into a wrap bracelet, right? I love a wrap bracelet. And I thought then it was like the heat of summer. Now we're coming into the heat of fall. Um, but I thought, wouldn't this be pretty as kind of a slim little bracelet that you could just wrap around your wrist and that's it, wrap around and go. So that was my thinking behind this. So The finished piece, let me show you the finished piece and then we'll delve into these. So the beads themselves are like a 2 millimeter. They're like really tiny, right? And so, but when they come together, I tried to make it kind of a monochromatic deal because I'm wearing my birthday bling here because this is all my faux, my fancy faux bling. Um, that I'm wearing. But see how you could uh, stack it, even if you have, I don't know, real bling or whatever, you can, this will go with just about anything because they're really cool and monochromatic, right? So the two colorways I chose, these are Aqua. And so the way we made these, some of them will have strands that are exactly the same, and it's really hard to tell. These, I think, are going to be slightly different that are in this package, but it just adds a little bit of a mottled kind of look to it. You can hardly tell. So here's the other one. Here's the copper, and you can see. So they may vary just slightly in yours, right? You might get two of one or whatever, but they're really cool. I just love them. So I've given you two strands of these, and it's too many beads for a double wrap. So you're going to have extra. So you'll actually be able to use these for something else. Um, I'm going to show you some variations that I want to do on this theme. So let me show you what else actually, though, comes in your little baggie. You get 2 yards of 1 millimeter leather here, okay, which is plenty for you to work with. And then you've got a little button, a smaller tiara cast button, which I love. And then I thought it would be fun to do some laddering with silk. And it is actually kind of fun. And I'm going to show you how I do that. I use the size 2. If you don't want your stitches to be so noticeable. I wanted it to kind of have a textile forward kind of feel, so that's why I chose this this silk. You could use KO and do the infinity stitch with KO. Okay, so it just depends. You can use this guy if you want, or you can use your own thread, and KO doubled for infinity would be what you'd use. Okay. So this is the aqua that I've done here. Let's turn our attentions to this copper one over here. So since I wanted to put a lot of, things that I liked in this little bracelet, right? I like sparkly things. I also like knots. I also like infinity stitch. I love this little tiara cast button that looks vintage. So this one, it's a double wrap, but if you'll notice, you guys, I didn't, what do I want to say? I didn't actually cut off the tails here because I wanted to show you actually the closure and stuff on this. So I did a little photoshopping on the project that I showed you, or the picture that was on the website. But I left the tails here because I wanted to show you how that's going to look. Um, So with this um, leather, it's the 1 millimeter. And I thought about using the .5, right? But I thought the .5 was a little too thin. So I went with the 1 millimeter. In the copper, we're using the this what color do we actually call this? Someone help me out here, Janice. It's uh it's failing me, my memory for this color here. Um, Someone will bring it up, but it's the 1 millimeter here, and I've got the brass button that goes with it. And I thought it really looked pretty with this kind of mix of these crystals. And then the silk that I chose for this one, I chose the beige silk for this because it really matched kind of that leather that I love. I'm gonna have to look it up unless somebody beats me to it, but I don't know why I can't remember because I'm multitasking, doing too many things at once. Yes, it's the metallic. Give me two shakes and I will tell you what it is. You can find all of our metallics over in our leather section. Metallic pyrite, there it is. Oh, thank goodness. Metallic pyrite. Oh, I should know that. Pyrite's one of my favorite things. So here it is here. And so you've got 2 yards of that. So we've got plenty for you to work with. So I want to tell you a couple of things to do and a couple of things not to do. So when I started making this one with the silk, right, you have a limited supply. It's 2 meters, okay, of this. So you can't be wasteful or else you're going to run out of thread. I only gave you 1 packet because I didn't think you needed more than that, but you could always pick up another one if you felt like you wanted a spare, or if you wanted a different color or whatever. But 1 comes in your little kit and it's the size 2, okay? So, but you need to plan it out so you don't run out. Okay. So what I did when I started this, I wanted some knots. So I did the snake knot and I'm going to go over this. And that's why I didn't cut it off on this end either, because I want to show you, you can lengthen or shorten it. And I want to show you how I actually close this up here. And we'll take a look at that. But the snake knot here, I just did 4 of the little snake knots. And then I came in and I started to do the macrame with the silk, right? Um, and I had this long tail of the silk and stuff. I wasted too much. So I was able to finish it, but I was super close to like the end of my thread when I finished. So I'm going to show you the right, how I would actually do it now that I'm doing it a second time. So let's set this up. I'm going to come in. Oh, and you can see here how I've done 2 beads, right? There are 2 beads long. You could make this a single wrap if you wanted and do 4 beads wide or 3 beads even. So I think on this one that I'm going to show you, I'm going to make the beads a little wider. It won't double wrap around, or it could, but you just put more of the snake knots at the end. Okay. But let's just see how that all works out. So here's this. And Gita, you're asking if your comments show. Yes, they do. All of your comments and links are showing. So perfect. So I'm going to come in here, get this right in the center, like so. And I started off, let me get a little closer here so you guys can see what's happening. So I wanted something that was a little more than just a plain overhand knot, right? And I wanted something to kind of start it off with. I mean, I could start right here, just starting the laddering if I wanted to, right? I don't have to put any knots in here. But I wanted a little bit of a knot, something that looked a little, I don't know, had a little bit of texture to it. So I could just very simply, let me undo this thread here first so it's ready, and I'll show you. Yeah, and Janice is saying the same thing. Let me put this. She's done wrap bracelets with the 0.5 millimeter leather, and it's pretty fragile, she says, because the leather is so thin. She would go with 1 millimeter or larger. I agree with that. The 0.5 looks kind of cool because it is so slim. But you really have to check the leather really well to make sure that there aren't any, what do I want to say, any imperfections in it. because it is the 0.5 millimeter in the leather is a little fragile um, for the knot or for the edges of the ladder bracelet. So here's my thread, right? It's 2 meters of the size 2, and I've stretched it a little bit. Now I can attach this thread in a bunch of different ways. If I just wanted to tie a knot, right, I could get my little thread right here, just make a loop and put everything through that loop, right, like so. So I'm knotting the leather and the silk together like this, pulling it through and then starting, okay? So then what I did instead was I added these little snake knots right here. Now in this knot pendium that we've done, and it's on beadshop.com, it's under our learning section, and it's examples of all of the different knots that we make here. I did a whole week of knots. You guys might remember that. So I had to go back at it and look at my directions for the snake knot. But it's really super easy. So I'm going to show you. And I'm going to do a few more of those snake knots right at the beginning here. And you can make it, that knotted portion as big or as long or as short as you like. And Kim says here that she and Ellie has both used doubled strands of 0.5 millimeter leather. That would work for sure because those 2 strands um, would hold each other up kind of. So yeah, that would definitely work. That would be cool. I'll have to check that out sometime because I do like the 0.5 a lot. So for the snake knot, it's pretty easy. You can see here, I've just put my button and my little clamper here. Let me move my camera so you can see. So now for the snake knot, the first knot that you make it can be a little tedious, right? Because it's the first one of everything, so it might sit kind of funny, but just kind of hang with it. And you've seen me do this before. I'm going to take the right hand cord and I'm going to make a loop so that the loop goes over the top, right? Like this. And I go to here. Then this left hand side comes through this loop. It goes around and over this length of cord that's coming from that original loop, back behind everything, and up through that loop. I'm going to do it again. And you can also consult in the knot pendium. I have a video on just the snake knot. So see here how I've tightened that and it does kind of that little crossover right there. Let me do it again. Okay. So my right hand side comes up and loops over itself like this. My left hand cord comes up through that loop. Now I pass this over this cord and under those top cords and up through that little window right there. And see how it makes kind of like a little symmetrical pretzel. That's what we're going for. And you want to kind of keep it as flat as you can. And see there, it just tightens right up. Let me do it again. Loop up through the loop with the left hand side. Over the right cord. Under the top 2 cords. And up and through that open loop. And tighten. So that's 3 snake knots. Yeah, we could call it the pretzel knot. One of my favorite snacks. for sure, over the right-hand side, under those two, and up through that loop, and see it's nice and symmetrical. So that's 4. Okay, and I did 4 on this one, on the sample. I did 4. I'm going to do just a couple more. I'll do 6 on this one. I'll go a little bit faster, and over and under those two and up through that loop. And this in and of itself, this knot makes a great bracelet on its own, right? And yeah, use some larger cord. Terry's saying that she would have to practice and practice. Use some larger cord. Get some 2mm cord, or if you have some rat tail or something sitting around like that, get some larger cord and try it out and just practice. But the Knot Pendium is a really great resource of me, if I do say so myself, knotting a bunch of our good old favorites, so you don't have to wade through the the full videos to get to the how-to with the knots. There we go. Okay, so there's 6, right? 2, 4, 6. Okay, so let's go ahead and add our laddering thread, and we're going to do the infinity stitch to do the ladder. So on this one, you can see, and I feel like it's a little too much. It's a little long. I did a whole bunch of macrame knots there, and I think it's a little too much. So you could hide the end of your thread in this knot. And yes, Shelley, you do remember, Drea and I were chatting about this last night. I did call this a wall knot when we first demonstrated it. And I think it's known by both of its names. So we kind of called it the snake knot because that's what most people were calling it. So for searching purposes, that's what we put it down. But you are correct. So I could, here's the end of my thread. And remember, the silk with needle has a needle on one end, and it just has the end, no needle on the other. So I could, if I wanted to, bury this thread in as I tied a few of these snake knots. I could do that, okay? Or I could, like I did here, do a little bit of macrame. I'm actually going to do 2 macrame knots here. Okay, so let me go ahead. Let me raise the camera so you can see here. There's no wrong way of doing this, right? This is just my way that I'm showing you. It's not my way or the highway. It's my way or your way or however you want to do it, right? So I'm going to come in and I'm going to clamp here because I need to have this nice and taut while I do that macrame. So let's get that back down there so you can see it. Here's my end, like so. And when I did the other one, I really reeled out like way too much thread, right? Like this, like way too much. I want to conserve as much of this as I can. So I'm just going to use a short little amount. Let me actually measure. Maybe like 3 inches worth of thread here, right? Not a lot. So I'm just going to go and I'm going to start my macrame. See how I'm going to the left, making my loop. With that little tail, I'm going to come under. And see, I don't even need that much. I'm going to scoot this knot over a little bit, just so I'm conserving as much thread as I can. It's nice to have a little more thread at the end of this project rather than at the beginning. So maybe even just 2 inches, but that looks good. Okay, so there's one. Now I'll make my loop on this side, under and through. And notice how I'm making the loop with the needle side, and I'm passing the side that doesn't have the needle through, right? I'm passing the short side through. So here's this. I take my loop, go to the left, over, under the center cords and through, and then I'll go to the right. And that's it. I'm just going to make 4 little knots, and I'm going to kind of push them up so they're kind of up against that snake knot there. Okay, so I didn't want a whole ton of that. So there they are. Can you see that? So now I'm going to add just a hair, a little drop of glue right there. And I'm going to come away later and burn that away or clip it away. Okay, let me get my lid back in this glue. And so now I am ready to ladder. Okay, so I'm going to come in and I'm going to reclamp everything. Got another clamp in here somewhere. There we are. Okay, and we're going to start to ladder. So I'm going to start with just a single. Now these beads, you can see that they are they're different colors. Some of you may get the same, some of you may get different. It just depends on how I packaged them up. They'll all look great. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to clip one of these strands open. So let me get my little clippers here. And let's clip this guy open. Whoops. I'm getting tangled in the silk thread. There we go. All right. So here we go. And Shelley's asking, are the holes in the beads large enough to weave the end of the silk through a few rows? They're not. They're large enough to go back and forth with your stitch, but that's why I'm ending it right there. You know, you could also weave this back into your knots here also. Okay, so I'm going to come in and I'm going to cut right here. And I'm going to take one of these beads off. Now, yeah, I know they're small, but they're about the size of a size 11 seed bead. So if you've laddered with 11s, that's what this is like. Okay, so I'm going to come in, I'm coming from the left. I'm taking that needle, going under the right hand side of my 1 millimeter cord, and I'm going to nestle that bead right in there. Let me get a little tighter. I know they're like size 11 seed beads. And I'm going to come back through. See, I've gone under the leather. So now I'm going to come back and go over. You can kind of pull it out if you need to a little bit to get in there. But you're going to go back through that crystal and under your leather on the left. Okay? And this is the size 2 silk. Now, to make everything lay really nicely, let me show you my trick here that I do. I'm going to pull this silk through, and notice how I'm keeping my right hand holding this thread so it doesn't curl. Now, you can also use, and I do this a lot when I ladder, I use my awl to kind of help me set that first little stitch. Okay, so there's the first one there. Okay, so now let's do it again. I'm going to do 2 this time. So I'm going to grab, let me cut open this other strand too, since these are kind of different. I'm going to get 2. And see how I pulled them off of the thread and kept them in between my fingers, right? So that when I put the needle through them, they just line up. See that? So it's not as terrible as you might think. And again, if you've laddered with 11s, and I know Janice loves to ladder with 11s, they're kind of fun to work with, and they have such kind of a delicate look to them. So see, now I've got my 2 in a row, and sometimes I have to pop it up. See that there? I'll pop it up, and then I can get my needle back through, my little wire needle, and hold on to the right hand side and pull everything through. I think the micro Ceylon might be too heavy. Someone's asking about that. I would use KO doubled for these if you wanted to substitute a thread. And see, now I'm going to go underneath that side. I'm going to do a row of 3 here for these. And if I do a row of 3, that means I might only have a single wrap. But I'm going to take one of those with the other color, and let's see how the 3 looks. I may just want the 2, but the 3 looks nice also, and it gives me a little bit of a wider piece. Okay, and you could vary. Let's see what the 2 3 2 3 looks like, Terry. Let's see. Let's try it. Why not, right? So here's 3. Let's go for it. And I'll come underneath. See how I pass my needle underneath. The infinity stitch is my favorite way to ladder. I like using these smaller threads for it. Though I do the traditional laddering as well with the, 2 sides and the Ceylon. I like that too. But the infinity stitch, I'm a much faster ladderer that way. See how I'm holding the right hand here again so that thread doesn't tangle. And then if it wants to twist a little bit, see how it wants to do that a little. I'll just get my awl in there, and that helps me set that stitch really nicely. Then I'll pop this thread underneath on the left-hand side and pull this through. Okay, so there's 3. Okay, so let me go down to 2 and see what that looks like. So here's the 2. Whoops, that one went on the floor, so let's get another. And just keep them on the strands, you guys. Keep them on the strands so that you don't have a pile of little beads that want to go all over the place. They stay a little bit better if you keep them strung while you're working. So this infinity stitch, this is one of the ways that we ladder. And if you go to our learning section on Bead Shop, we have a specific how to ladder with the infinity stitch as well as the traditional laddering as well. So let's just go through this one and go through that one and pull tight. And let me get my awl in there and tighten it down. Nice. And pass that under. Okay. So now let's go back to 3. And then I'm going to show you guys the closure. But that was a good suggestion. Let me get my needle, tighten it, or straighten it out. Get my 3 beads on there. 1, 2, and whoops, and 3. There we go. And back through. So yeah, I urge you to kind of experiment and see what works for you. Sorry, I need to get this back in there. There we go. But I want you to enjoy the process of this piece. You know, this one definitely is not a sprint, but the result, I think, is so pretty that it'll be worth your time and effort. And get that awl or a piece of wire or your knotting tweezers, whatever works for you. And then tighten that up. There we go. Okay. So yeah, you could do the 2 3 2 3, right? You could you know, whatever works for you. And I sure love this coppery color. Let me put this one down here so you can see the difference, right? So here's the Aqua, and here's when I closed it. So let me raise this up a bit and let me show you how I measure, because you're going to have to measure, you know, as you go along. So if you make this a little bit wider, you may only want to do that single wrap and then maybe make a whole line of snake knots, or, you know, whatever. You decide what works for you with this, but you've got plenty of length here to work with. So with this one, when I made it, I laddered, and you can see here, this comes around, and as I was working with it, I measured here, and I added just as many snake knots as I wanted to here at the end. So I had 4 up here and then 4 over here as well, from the top, from the beginning and the end. And then I just tied that little overhand knot. But I want to show you, I ended it just as I began it, right? Just like so. And let's say that we were going to close this up. I have a piece here. What I did was, that's why I want to unknot this so you guys can see it. Let me clamp this down. I wouldn't usually clamp on the beads, but it's not going to be on there for very long. What I did to close it, and I want to get really tight here. Yeah, I think I prefer the 2 beads wide too, Janice. I love the way this, I love the slim part of this kind of look, especially when it wraps double. What I did here, these last little knots, I'm just going to do one so I can show you here. Let me raise this up. Let me just make a little a little a little row here. Hang on, I need to get it in my focal range. Sorry about that. Then I'll put it back under the lens. But people will see this around your wrist and they will just love it. I love mine. I'm going to wear mine this weekend on my birthday. Okay. So we're going to come in. Let's pretend that we're ending this, right? I'm going to come through and then I'll taper it down. So let me come through here with this one. I should have tied that off, but that's okay. So here's this. These will sit right there. And then I will taper with a single. Get that single. Oh, Tammy, you want to know about my faux bling? I just got myself a couple. They're so fake. They are fake, fake, fake. They are not from the family jewel vault. I just got them. There's a company that makes really kind of good fakes. So I just wanted a little bit of bling on my wrist for my 56th year. So I bought myself a little something. If you were here, we could play dress up and try them on. There we go. Let me get this, my little single. I promise this is worth the wait. Gosh, too much thread. There we go. Okay, so see here, I'm coming over and I'm going to go underneath and I'm going to go back through. And it's also, all of this is all gray. Ugh, a bit hard to see. Just make sure you've got real good light. There we go. Okay, so to close it off, I just did a little half hitch, a series of those, and then I went into the snake knot. So I'll show you. So let's say that that's there, and we're going to pull that underneath like that. Then I'm going to knot them. Okay, so here, they're paste, exactly, as my mom likes to say. They're paste. They're faux. So see how I'm coming here to the left? Then I'm coming underneath the center cords, pulling that thread through and tightening it up like that. This looks, it looks like this up here. This is a little off kilter because it's my little sample. But see there? And so then I'll do that again. Go to the left, tie it again, make another one. Okay, like that. And then I'll do that 2 more times. That's what I did. Like that. And then 1 more time. Then I put some Hypo GS right there on that knot, right? Then then what I did was I started my snake knots. So I just came in, made my loop, came up through the loop, behind the cord, behind these two, and through. And then that first one wants to sit a little funny, so you kind of have to, did I not do that right? I may not have. Let me re-knot it. And I'll glue, and then I'll cut all of this away afterwards. But here's my first one, up and through. Over the right hand, under the back two, and up through the loop. Can you tell I've got a little mantra? There's my pretzel. There it is. And see there, I push that right there. So now I'll do it again. And make as many. This is where you could add or take away your length, right? Right here in this section. So if you need a few more knots to make the length so it fits nicely, you can do a few more. Okay. And you'll just keep going. The trick to making these knots nice and even is to keep it all kind of flat as you're working. Oh, that didn't work out. Let me try that again. Loop. I have to talk myself through it. Up through the loop, over the right hand cord, back behind the two, and up through the loop. There we go. And now tighten. But see how I'm keeping it kind of flat like this? I'm not twisting or anything, and that's how it tightens nice and easily. Okay. So then you'll just tie your knot. What I did was I came through. I figured how much space I needed for the button, like this, about that much, and then tied my overhand knot right here, like this, and like this. And before I tighten it super closed, I'll just go ahead and just make sure that the button fits through. Okay, so I'm actually going to take all of this apart a little bit and put it back to where it was. But I wanted to show you how that closed. And that's really it. You can decide to add the knots or not, literally. Let me just clip this away. Undoing it any other way would just be too difficult. Got my thread snips here, super handy. Those guys. And let me clip this right there. There we go. Okay, so I'll come in and I'll just tie that knot. Just like that. Okay, so that's that. So I'll tighten it up and we will clip away those ends. Okay. There we go. And that, as they say, is that. Ta-da! Right? Deborah's asking, if you wanted to make a bracelet with all snake knots, would the cord on the right have to be longer? That's a good question. I don't think so, because I think the cords switch back and forth. Let me test that out real quick. I've got a second, right? So if this one, I'm going to tie a knot here, so I know that this one's on the right. So let me make my loop up and through. Let me see if they switch places, because I'm not sure if they do or not. Here, behind, and through. right? So there's that first one. So no, the cord on the right always stays the cord on the right. The cord on the left always stays the cord on the left. But you tighten up this loop. So I think that the cords stay fairly even. What I would do is, if you're just making the snake knot, give yourself a little bit extra, because see how that cord um, takes up some space. So, and Ruth is saying she just made one yesterday and they came out almost even. So that's good. Okay, great. Great, great. Thanks for bringing that up. I love that. All right. I love that experimentation. That's what Free Tip Friday is all about. So, you guys, it has another hands of time have swept by, and we have come to another end of our Free Tip Friday. I hope you enjoyed this kind of fun little project. They'll be fun for you to just kind of play around with, and don't let the tiny beads daunt you. Remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint to the end of this bracelet. Do remember, you guys, that you can find them. They're going to go on sale in just a little more than an hour at 12:30 p.m. Pacific time. Go right to the homepage, right on beadshop.com, and you'll be able to just refresh the page and find the kits there. You'll find the Aqua and the copper. Remember, you can find all of the information on the project and the products right on our website. And don't forget to sign up for our newsletter for the latest in our discounts, giveaways, and new products. And don't forget to follow us all on our social, on our Instagram at beadshop.com, on Facebook at the Bead Table, and of course, hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube so you never miss any new content. Next week, you guys, we have a new drop coming, right? Um, I am going to be playing around with some tribal beads. So stay tuned for that for next week. We're going to play around with some more leather next Wednesday. I may or may not have some new knotting skills for you to play around with those tribal beads. And then Friday, a week from today, Emily's going to be back and we're going to go over seed bead basics, kind of what you need on your seed bead table for seed bead success. So Emily is going to impart some of her wisdom next Friday for you on Free Tip Friday. So that is it, everyone. Thank you so, so much for joining me today, as always. Have a fantastic weekend, everybody, and I will see you next week. Thanks all. Talk to you soon.